One second. One. Uh, okay. So let's begin with uh, the paper presentation session. The first paper presentation session of this international webinar on rewriting her story. I'm Ms. Manali Momaya, President of the History Enthusiast. I welcome you all on behalf of my entire team. I also welcome our chairperson for this session, Dr. Vinay Kumar sir, uh, Assistant Professor, Department of Ancient Indian History, Culture and Archaeology, Banaras Hindu University, Varanasi. Welcome, sir. I also welcome all the participants, those who are going to present papers in this session, and those who have joined as viewers. I also welcome my friend and Vice President of the History Enthusiast, Ms. Nidhi Katti. Without any further ado, I request Ms. Nidhi Katti to briefly introduce the chairperson of this session, and then we can begin the paper presentations.
Am I audible?
Yes, Nidhi, you are.
Yeah, you are audible.
Okay. Dr. Vinay Kumar sir was born in 1976. He completed his PhD and MA in Ancient Indian History, Culture and Archaeology, MA in Archaeology and Heritage Management, postgraduate diploma in Archaeology from Institute of Archaeology, Archaeological Survey of India. Presently, Vinay Kumar sir is working as an assistant professor in the Department of Ancient Indian History, Culture and Archaeology, Banaras Hindu University, Varanasi. Prior to this, he has worked as assistant professor at Indira Gandhi National Tribal University, Amarkantak, Madhya Pradesh. Dr. Kumar has worked as a consultant and assistant archaeologist in ASI. He has also worked as research scholar in Indira Gandhi National Center for the Arts and Indian Archaeological Society, New Delhi. His areas of specialization include field archaeology, art history, and heritage management. Dr. Kumar is a recipient of gold medal by former Honorable President of India for being university topper. Dr. Kumar has been awarded junior and senior research fellowship by University Grant Commission. He has also been awarded National Museum of Korea 2014 and 2016 Museum Network Fellowship by Government of South Korea. He has been awarded study and research grant by the Nehru Trust for the Indian collections at the Victoria and Albert Museum to undertake project on ethno-archaeological perspectives on megaliths of Baspeted and supervised many archaeological excavations, namely excavations at Lahurdeva, Birana, Haryana, Baro, Rajasthan, Hansi, Haryana, Bhanpur, Yampi, Gombi, Vatola, Yampi, etc. He has conducted archaeological excavations, the site of Matingao, and Chandauli as the director in field session 2019 to 20, 20 to 21, 21 to 22. He has undertaken many research projects and their outcomes have been presented in many national and international workshops, seminars and conferences. Dr. Kumar has worked with many international national scholars, more than 45 research papers in many national and international journals. He has authored the book titled West Asian and Hellenistic Elements in Indian Art, Mani Sushma, Archaeology and Heritage, Early Harappan Culture of Cote DG, Soti Complex, Indian Art, Archaeology and Culture, felicitating legendary archaeologist Professor B.B. Lal, Puramimamsa and Puratattva Vaibhava. He is a life member of many national and international committees, societies like ASI, Indian Archaeological Survey of India, Indian Archaeological Society New Delhi, International Association for Asian Heritage IAAH, Colombo Society, Society of South Asian Archaeology, Pune, Museums Association of India, Indian Art History Congress, Indian Society for Greek and Roman Studies, Madhya Pradesh Itihasa Parishad, Sagar Indian History Congress, New Delhi, Wakankar Rock Art and Heritage Welfare and Society, Bhopal, Numismatic Society of India, Varanasi, Bharatiya Itihasa, Sankalana Samiti, Kashi, etc. It's really a privilege to have Sir as a chairperson for this session. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to introduce Dr. Vinay Kumar sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nidhi, for the introduction.
Thank you very much, Nidhi, for the introduction.
Now we will begin the Papaji! Now we will begin the paper presentations. Before the presentations begin, I want to inform the participants. The time limit will be a total of 7 minutes. Kindly bear with us because we have to be on time for the next session. So the first presenter, Dheeraj Kumar Nirbhay. The title of your paper is Prachin Baudh Sahitya aur Bhikkhuni Sangh. You can please present your paper, sir.
धन्यवाद। मैं धीरज कुमार निर्भय दिल्ली विश्वविद्यालय से। मेरे पेपर का शीर्षक है प्राचीन बौद्ध साहित्य और भिक्षुणी संघ। प्राचीन बौद्ध साहित्य में भिक्षुणी संघ के बारे में क्या लिखा गया है और भिक्षुणी संघ ने बौद्ध समाज और भारतीय समाज को क्या दिया है, इस बारे में मैं कुछ बातें आप लोगों से करूंगा। विश्व का इतिहास पुरुषों का इतिहास रहा है, क्योंकि इसे महिलाओं की कोई चर्चा किए बगैर ही लिखा गया था। मानव जाति की भाषा, संस्कृति व विचार पद्धतियां पुरुषों की ही बनाई हुई हैं। विश्व की रचना व प्रगति में महिलाओं को भागी बनाने के बजाय पुरुषों ने उन्हें विचित्र व बाधक वस्तु के रूप में देखा है। महिलाओं के जीवन की धारा जन्म से लेकर मृत्यु तक पिता, भाई, पति और अंततः पुत्रों के अधीन ही मानी गई है, विशेषकर भारतीय समाज के संदर्भ में। सरकारें बनाने व सेनाओं की रचना करने वाले पुरुष ही थे। अधिकतर धार्मिक परंपराओं में जिन्होंने भी लेखन किया, उन्होंने महिलाओं की अपेक्षा केवल पुरुषों के अनुभवों और मानसिक छवियों का ही लेखन किया। हाल के दिनों तक ही मुझे याद है कि अधिकतर धार्मिक कार्यक्रमों में कुछ कार्यक्रम, धार्मिक कार्यक्रम हुआ करते थे, उसमें भी इस तरह की बातें आती रहती थी, जैसे कि स्त्री के गर्भ से बच्चे का जन्म लेना पाप कर्म बताया जाता था। जीवन चक्र से मुक्ति के लिए स्त्री को पुत्र को जन्म देना चाहिए, अन्यथा उसकी मुक्ति नहीं हो सकती। और यह भी वैसे लोग बताते थे जो समाज में बहुत प्रतिष्ठित होते थे, जो समाज में किसी धर्म या संस्था को, संप्रदाय को लेकर आगे बढ़ रहे होते थे। मृत्यु के उपरांत पुत्र के हाथों मुखाग्नि ना दी गई तो आत्मा को नरक में दुख भोगना पड़ेगा या आत्मा प्रेत योनि में भटकती रहेगी, उसे मुक्ति की प्राप्ति नहीं होगी। इस तरह की बातें समाज में होती रही हैं। अभी कुछ साल पहले तक भी ये बातें मैंने सुनी है। भारतवर्ष की इसी भूमि पर 6वीं शताब्दी ईसा पूर्व में कपिल वस्तु के शाक्य गणराज में रानी महामाया के गर्भ से जन्मे सिद्धार्थ गौतम जब कालांतर में बोधि प्राप्ति कर गौतम बुद्ध कहलाते हैं, मानवता के कल्याणार्थ अपने ज्ञान के प्रसार के लिए ऋषिपत्तन मृगदाव में पंचवर्गीय भिक्षु को साथ लेकर धम्मचक्र प्रवर्तन कर बुद्ध संघ की स्थापना करते हैं। बौद्ध संघ की स्थापना के 5 वर्ष उपरांत जब उनके पिता राजा शुद्धोधन की मृत्यु हो जाती है, तब उनकी माता महाप्रजापति गौतमी, जिन्होंने इनकी माता की मृत्यु के उपरांत बाल्यकाल से ही पालन पोषण किया था, यह विचार कर कि बुद्ध सांसारिक जीवन से अलग होकर सबों के कल्याणार्थ काम कर रहे हैं। यह विचार के बुद्ध सांसारिक जीवन के अलग होकर सबों के बीच समानता और करुणा का संदेश देकर उनके जीवन को जन्म मृत्यु के भव बंधन से मुक्त करने का मार्ग बता रहे हैं। अब जब मेरे जीवन का कोई उद्देश्य बचा नहीं है, तो क्यों न बौद्ध संघ में दीक्षित होकर अपना और समाज का कल्याण करूं। अपने शिष्य आनंद के आग्रह पर महामानव बुद्ध ने भिक्षुणी संघ की स्थापना करते हैं और गौतमी के साथ आई हुई 500 अन्य महिलाओं को भी विशेष रूप से कुछ नियमों का पालन का वचन लेकर के भिक्षुणी संघ की स्थापना करते हैं। पाली विनय पिटक में सभी विनयों और नियमों का संग्रह आज भी उपलब्ध है, जिसमें उस तरह के नियम जो भिक्षुओं के लिए हुआ करते थे और जो उस तरह के नियमों का भी जो है उसमें संग्रह है, जो कि विशेषकर भिक्षुओं के लिए भी दिया गया था। और शुरुआत के दौर में जो ये नियम बनाए गए थे, जो विनय पिटक में वर्णित हैं, वो विशेषकर जो तो भिक्षु होते थे और भिक्षुणी होती थी, उनके लिए बनाया गया था। और जो समाज के उपासक और उपासिकाएं होती थी, तो उनके लिए उसमें जो है बहुत सारी उसमें इस तरह के वर्णन बहुत कम है। उसमें सिर्फ जो है भिक्षुणी और भिक्षुओं के लिए ही विनय पिटक में अधिकतर जो उपदेश दिए गए हैं और जो नियम बनाए गए हैं, वो उनके लिए मुख्य रूप से कहे गए हैं। यह एक ऐसी घटना थी जिसने भी पिछले कई शताब्दियों से परिवार, विवाह व समाज के पितृ सत्तात्मक बंधन में उलझी स्त्री समाज को अध्यात्म के क्षेत्र में अपनी मुक्ति प्राप्ति का अवसर दिया। यह जो है आज से लगभग 2500 साल पहले की यह घटना है, जब भगवान बुद्ध ने जो है भिक्षुणी संघ की स्थापना की थी। तो एक ऐसा यह एक प्रकार का परिवर्तन था, जो स्त्रियां समाज में, परिवार में जो है विवाह बंधन से बंधी रहती थी, उनको एक मुक्ति का मार्ग दिया था, एक आध्यात्म की ओर आगे बढ़ने का मार्ग जो है प्रथम बार यह प्रयास था जो है कि गौतम बुद्ध के द्वारा यह किया गया था। समाज के पितृत्मक बंधन में उलझी हुई स्त्री समाज को आध्यात्मिक क्षेत्र में अपनी मुक्ति का यह प्राप्त करने का यह पहला अवसर था, जो घटना जो है आज से लगभग 2500 वर्ष पहले हुई थी। गौतम बुद्ध की प्रमुख महिला शिष्यों में जो है कि वरिष्ठता के क्रम में जो है महाप्रजापति गौतमी आती हैं, क्योंकि प्रजापति गौतमी उनकी भी माता थी। जब उनकी माता महामाया का उनके जन्म के 7 दिन के बाद जो है उनकी मृत्यु हो जाती है, तो उनका पालन पोषण, उनकी देखभाल जो है उनकी विमाता ने ही किया था, महाप्रजापति गौतमी। और जब भिक्षुणी संघ की स्थापना होती है, तो वो पहली महिला होती हैं जिनको जो है भिक्षुणी संघ में दीक्षित किया जाता है। उसी प्रकार और भी कुछ महिलाओं का जो जिक्र होता है, थेरी गाथा, जो थेरी गाथा एक जो शुरुआती दौर की महान भिक्षुणियां हुई हैं, उन्होंने जो है जो कविताएं की हैं, उनको थेरी गाथा में संग्रहित किया गया है, जिसमें कुछ विशेष जो महान महिलाएं रही हैं उनके जिक्र हैं। तो उनके बारे में कुछ यहाँ आप लोग को बताऊंगा। उनमें वरिष्ठता क्रम में महाप्रजापति गौतमी आती हैं। ज्ञान के क्षेत्र में महान रूप में जो है खेमा को माना जाता है। मानसिक शक्ति में सबसे आगे उपप्लवना है, उपप्लवना। और विनय कंठस्थ करने में सबसे आगे रही है पटाचारा। धम्म बोलने में सबसे आगे धम्मदिन्ना। अवशोषण में सबसे आगे सुंदरी नंदा। ऊर्जा में सबसे आगे सोना। पेशनी गोरी में सबसे आगे शकुला। तीव्र अंतर्दृष्टि में सबसे आगे बद्दा कुंडल केसा। पिछले जन्मों को याद करने में सबसे आगे बद्दा कपिलानी। महान अंतर्दृष्टि में सबसे आगे बद्दा का चैना। बद्दा का चैना के बारे में बताना चाहूंगा कि बद्दा का चैना उनकी जो है जब सिद्धार्थ गौतम के रूप में भगवान बुद्ध होते हैं और जब उनका विवाह होता है तो यशोधरा से होता है। यह यशोधरा जब जो है भिक्षु संघ में दीक्षित हो जाती हैं, उसका नाम जो है बद्दा का चैना रखा जाता है। मोटे वस्त्र धारण करने में अग्रणी किशा गौतमी। आस्था में सबसे आगे सिंघाल माता। और उसी प्रकार कुछ गृहिणी जो उपासिकाएं हुआ करती थी, तो उसके बारे में भी यहाँ कुछ जिक्र हैं जो मैं आपको बता रहा हूँ। शरण के लिए पहली बार जाने में सबसे आगे सुजाता सेनियाधिता। दाता के रूप में अग्रणी विशाखा। विद्या में अग्रणी खज्जुतरा। सबसे पहले जो मेहता में रहती हैं सामवती। अवशोषण में सबसे आगे उत्तरानंद माता। उत्तम वस्तु देने में सबसे आगे सुपास कोलियधिता। बीमारों की देखभाल में सबसे आगे सुप्रिया। अनुभवात्मक विश्वास में अग्रणी रही हैं कात्यायनी, विश्वसनीयता में आगे रही हैं नकुल माता, मौखिक प्रशासन के आधार पर विश्वास में सबसे आगे पूरा घरा की काजी। तो इस तरह जो कुछ महिलाओं का जो जिक्र हुआ उसमें कुछ घरेलू महिलाएं रही हैं, और उससे पहले मैंने जो है महान विष्णु के जिक्र किया जो कि है थेरी गाथा में वर्णित है, जो बौद्ध प्राचीन बौद्ध साहित्य हैं और उनके अध्ययन के उपरांत जो है इन लोगों के बारे में अच्छे जिक्र मिलते हैं। आप विनय पिटक का जब अध्ययन करते हैं, विनय पिटक में कुछ इन लोगों का जिक्र है, थेरी गाथा में तो इन सबका जिक्र किया गया है।
टाइम लिमिट
आगे
प्लीज
ठीक 2 मिनट ठीक है। थेरी गाथा में खुद्दक निकाय के 15 ग्रंथों में से एक है। इसमें परम पद 73 विद्वान भिक्षुनियों को उद्दान तथा उद्गार दिए गए हैं जो 522 गाथाओं में संग्रहित है। यह ग्रंथ 16 निपातों अर्थात वर्गों में विभाजित है जो कि गाथाओं संख्या के अनुसार क्रमबद्ध है। बुद्धोत्तर काल के उपरांत जब हम सम्राट अशोक महान को देखते हैं तो सम्राट अशोक महान ने अपनी पुत्री संघमित्रा को जो है श्रीलंका भेजा था। उन्होंने अपनी पुत्री को भिक्षुनी के रूप में बौद्ध संघ में दीक्षित कर श्रीलंका भेजा था, जो सिंहन दिल में सदा के लिए अमर हो जाती हैं। संपूर्ण विश्व के इतिहास में ऐसा कोई दूसरा उदाहरण नहीं मिलता है कि जहाँ एक पिता अपनी पुत्री को मानवता की सेवा में इस प्रकार समर्पित करते हैं। कालांतर में 7वीं शताब्दी में जब चीनी बौद्ध यात्री तीर्थ या हेनसांग और भारत भ्रमण को आते हैं तब उन्हें कई स्थानों पर भिक्षुनी संघ और विहारों के दर्शन होते हैं जिनका जिक्र वो अपने यात्रा वृत्तांत में करते हैं। तो इस प्रकार हम देखते हैं कि किस प्रकार जो है बौद्ध धर्म में भगवान बुद्ध ने भिक्षु संघ की स्थापना कर महिलाओं को जो है आगे बढ़ने का और आध्यात्मिक के क्षेत्र में उस समाज में जहाँ की सारी महिलाएं जो बंधनों से बंधी रहती थी वैसे जो है पहली बार ये अवसर देते हैं। और एक चीज यहाँ मैं बताना चाहूंगा कि भिक्षुनी संघ में नियम बहुत कठोर हुआ करते थे, लेकिन जो गणिकाएं हुआ करती थी, जो गणिकाएं जिसमें आम्रपाली का नाम बहुत प्रसिद्ध है, जो भगवान बुद्ध की बहुत अच्छी उपासका रही हैं, बाद में वो भी भिक्षुनी बन जाती हैं। तो जो गणिकाएं होती थी उनको लिए जो है नियम में छूट दी गई है। जो उनको जब भिक्षुनी संघ में सम्मिलित किया जाता है तो उनको जो है कठोर नियमों के उस समय जो है उस तरह के नियमों का पालन नहीं थे, उनके लिए बाध्य नहीं किया जाता है उनको इस तरह की छूट। धन्यवाद
सेशन के लिए
जी धन्यवाद।
इफ एनीबडी हैज क्वेश्चंस, अगर किसी को कोई प्रश्न पूछना हो तो 1 या 2 प्रश्न के लिए समय है।
We can move to the next paper.
Okay, sir. So moving to the next paper. Thank you, Neeraj Kumar Nirbhay ji, for your presentation. I now request Dr. Bhagyashree Pataskar to present her paper on contribution of women in the temple construction. Is Dr. Bhagyashree here? Okay. Moving on. Dr. Siri Rama, her story in sculpture, sculptural legacy from secular to the divine in the Manchala Beluru temple. Is Dr. Siri Rama here? That's unfortunate. Calling for the next paper, Anindya Sanyal and Preeti Rawat. The paper title is Women in Early Medieval Kashmir. Also not present. Okay, calling upon the next paper, Kritika Punia, Gender Constructs in Indian Ramayana Traditions. Please stay to the time limit. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Friends, today's theme, rewriting her story and presenting through my paper, which is titled Gender Construct in Indian Ramayana Tradition. I would like to share my screen just so that you have a rough idea about what the major themes, sub-themes in my topic would be. Is it visible?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is my theme, and I'll be breaking it into 4-5 parts. What is gender constructs? What do I mean by Indian and Ramayana traditions? But first of all, we need to ask this question. Why are we still talking about Ramayana? It's an ancient Indian epic written centuries ago. Is it still relevant today? I believe it is because it continues to define our notion of not only womanhood, but what ideal manhood, notions of duty and honor are. I would like to share a small anecdote. When I got married last year, the elderly in my family blessed me, saying, "सीता की तरह पत्नी धर्म निभाना और परिवार को संजो के रखना." This is what happened in western part of India, Rajasthan. And I got married and I came to Jharkhand, where I saw Chhath being celebrated very religiously. And here the women wear orange sindoor from the tip of their nose to the back of their head. And when I asked a woman why she was doing it, she said Sita used to do it. And I was mesmerized by this lady who lived centuries ago, but she still continues to define how women see themselves and they want to see other women. So that's why I believe the Ramayana tradition, especially her stories in the Ramayana traditions, are very much relevant today. Given the feminist movement and so many new novels are being written on women, we have work on Mandodari, Urmila, Shrota Kirti. So this trend has become very much common today, and that's why we need to find more her stories in Ramayana. The next question that arises is, what is Ramayana? Is it his story? Is it only Ram's story? What about Sita, Urmila, and several other women in Ramayana? Is it history? Is it fiction? When we talk about Ramayana, we have to understand this concept of Itihas Purana. Rumila Thapar uses this word and she says Itihas. Thus it was. This is how it happened. And this is the Indian notion of writing history, which might differ from the Western notion, because we do not believe in a cyclic, in a linear concept of chronology. We believe in a cyclic concept with the 4 yugas. We do not believe that only written traditions constitute history. We believe oral sources are equally important. So the importance of hearing, as we have seen in Indian tradition. Given that, I see history as a very much socially constructed norm. When we talk about history, you have to look at the culture of which past history you are looking at. And that's why Ramayana becomes a part of India's Itihas Puran tradition. It is very much history. But yes, facts and figures have been manipulated. For example, if I see the webinar today, if there are 20 people attending, we Indians have a flair for drama, we always had, right? And we invented zero, so we love putting extra zeros in our figures. So 20 become 20,000. So yes, there is manipulation of facts, but that does not make it less historical. Another point which was presented in by Dr. Gauri Pramukh Krishnan ma'am, she very much said that this is a part of continuous and shared heritage. This is the line she used. And that's so beautifully put, because Ramayana is a part of continuous and shared heritage too. It's not only Indian Ramayana, it's also Sri Lankan and Southeast Asian Ramayana traditions. So there is no one Ramayana. So next time anyone says, Ramayan mein ye likha tha, please ask them which Ramayana are you talking about? Because there are several Ramayana traditions. And traditions include not only literary aspect, they also include drama, art, puppetry, Ramlila. So it's very much diverse. The next important aspect, or the last important aspect, is gender construct in Indian Ramayana traditions. And I hope you were able to attend R.P. Goldman's lecture today on women in Ramayana and Mahabharata, and how sexuality and sexual assault, he covered that topic. So you can see this paper as a continuation of that. So when we talk about gender construct, how many her stories do we see? And this is the picture I'll be talking about. Just to give you a notion that when we talk about Ramayana, you have to see which Ramayana and in which social construct. In this sense, often what happens is the social reality may be very chaotic. Chaotic in the sense of from the perspective of a heterosexual upper caste men. When women are so-called stepping out of line, adultery is common. Lower caste people are questioning the established norms. So in such a chaotic society, they often try to embark on the values of a golden era period, where everything was according to the social norms. So this is British era magazine, which shows the pious nature of Lakshman and Sita, as a Devar pious, the Devar Bhabi relation, and how in modern British era colonial India, the Devar Bhabi adultery, illicit relations were also coming forward. So it is an attempt to embark on the past golden age. And Professor Charu Gupta ma'am has written beautifully about this in her work. I'll stop sharing my screen so that we can talk about the last aspect of my lecture, which is the gender construct. What do I mean by gender construct? First of all, let's talk about our emotions gendered. आप सबने वो एड देखा होगा, लड़के रोते नहीं, मर्द को दर्द नहीं होता. ये डायलॉग बहुत फेमस है. And Madhuri Dixit, did this ad on domestic violence. It's better to teach our son that लड़के रुलाते नहीं instead of लड़के रोते नहीं. So this concept, is it really there in Ramayana too? Are men supposed to behave in a valorous way and they're not supposed to cry? I did not find, in most of the Ramayana which I read, I did not find this genderization of emotion. Men and women both cry. So the issue of the emotions of sorrow, dukh, virha, separation, pity, joy is equally represented by both men and women. In fact, in Brij Narayan Chakrabarty's Urdu poem, we find the beautiful emotional dialogue between a son and a mother. So Kaushalya and Ram, they're both crying. And there's this line, Kadmo pe maa ke gir pada, aansu ki taur se. So that emotional concept is, there is no masculinity attached to non-display of emotions. That is what I found in most of the Ramayanas that I read. And I do believe there are several which I have not yet covered, so we never know what we may find. In Dashrath Jataka, Ram doesn't cry when Bharat tells him that Dashrath is dead. But Bharat, Sita, Lakshman cries. So the notion is not that men don't cry, but the notion is that Ram, who is a wise person, who has risen above the cycle of birth and death, understands that death is common. That's why he behaves like a wise person, right?
Sorry to have to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Please wrap it up within the next minute.
Yeah, just 2 more points. Similarly, what is the role played by women? Are some of the domains which are considered to be exclusively men, war, politics, diplomacy, women have no role to play in it? In fact, women have dominant role to play in it. The very fact that Kaikeyi gets those 2 wounds, Kaikeyi and Manthara are able to change the course of history. They're able to reverse a royal order. Isn't that power? Also, when we talk about Kaikeyi's boon, how did she get it? In some of the Ramayana versions, she got it because she helped Dashrath win a war, and she was the charioteer of Dashrath. So she did not watch the war from the outskirts of the battlefield. She was in the war. She was a warrior. Similarly, another question that arises, Ram and Lakshman during exile are in Dandakarnya forest. Bharat and Shatrughan, after placing Ram's slippers on the seat, Ayodhya's throne, they are in Nandigram village. So if all the royal prince are not in Ayodhya, Dashrath is dead. Who governs Ayodhya? What about day-to-day administration of Ayodhya? Weren't royal women in ancient India taught about political science, military science? They were well trained in administration. So this is another point to wonder about. And the last thing I would like to cover is deification of the husband. How Pati becomes Parmeshwar. How in Valmiki, Ram is still a human being. But in Tulsidas, he becomes a god. In Tulsidas Ramayana, he becomes a god. But also pay attention to the fact that Sita is elevated to the status of a Devi. Lakshman and Urmila are also worshipped as god and goddesses. There is a temple in Bharatpur for Lakshman and Urmila. So while deification of the husband is taking place, the women are also uplifted to the status of goddesses. So I believe when we are talking about Ramayana, please do find several her stories in it because there are plenty. Also, if somebody says, you know, उस रामायण में ये लिखा है, do question them and say, कौन सी रामायण में ये लिखा है? And next time anyone says, you know, लड़के रोते नहीं, हमारे ट्रेडिशन में ये सब नहीं है, then you can definitely say, राम तो फूट फूट के रोया था जब सीता को अपहरण हुआ था, and दशरथ उसी गम में मर गया कि उसका बेटा उससे दूर हो गया. So emotions are not as gendered as we perceive to be in Indian tradition. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kritika. If anybody has any questions, we can take only one question, please. Yes, Dr. Kushal Singh.
यस मैम. मेरे को एक बार एक चीज क्लियर करना है कि ये कौन सी रामायण की आपने बात की. मैंने जिस तरह से मैं रामायण को स्टडी करता हूँ, ऐसे 329 टाइप ऑफ रामायण का मेरे पास लिंक है जिसको मैंने स्टडी किया है. आप कौन से रामायण की बात कर रहे हैं? अब जिसमें आपने बोला, काफी अच्छा क्वेश्चन आपका वो था, लिमिट किया कि लड़के रोते नहीं है, लेकिन एक रामायण में बताया है कि रावण जो था उसने सीता रावण की पुत्री थी. ये जैन रामायण की बात कर रहा हूं मैं. जैन रामायण में ये है, बिल्कुल लॉजिक है कि वो रोए नहीं थे, बट उन्होंने वो बदला लेने के लिए वो सीता के अपहरण किया था. वो सारी चीजें कि इस चीज का वो एक मिले, क्योंकि सीता को हम बोलते ही हैं पहले कि सीता जो थी वो कहाँ की पुत्री थी, उसको हम, तो उस चीज को आप मेरे को थोड़ा सा रिलेट करके बताएं कि रामायण आप कौन से रामायण के साथ लिंक कर रहे हैं. 329 रामायण में से आप कौन से रामायण की बात कर रहे हैं, वाल्मीकि कौन से? आप मेरे को थोड़ा सा प्लीज इसको एक्सप्लेन करें तो ज्यादा अच्छा.
डॉक्टर कुशाल, इनफैक्ट आपने जो फिगर बोला है उससे बहुत डाइवर्स है रामायण. A.K. रामानुजन खुद कहते हैं कि 300 रामायण एंड इट्स मेनी वर्जन्स.
बट मेरे पास जो लिंक है, जिस सोर्स के साथ में आपको प्रूफली रिव्यू के साथ में आपसे क्वेश्चन,
मैं ये नहीं कह रही आप गलत है, मैं कह रही हूँ आप एक और जीरो लगा लीजिए. मैं कह रही हूँ कि 3000 वर्जन्स होने के ज्यादा चांसेस है रामायण के. तो डेफिनेटली डॉक्टर कुशाल, जो मैंने बात की है वो वाल्मीकि रामायण से ड्रॉ किया है मेजॉरिटी, बिकॉज आई हैड लिमिटेड टाइम. तुलसीदास रामायण, दशरथ जाटका, ब्रिज नारायण चक्रवर्ती की जो उर्दू के ऊपर पोएम्स लिखी हुई है, एंड 2-3 और रामायण. इनफैक्ट जो आप बात कर रहे हैं सीता रावण की बेटी थी, वो कन्नड़ रामायण में भी है. आई एम नॉट श्योर अबाउट द जैन वर्जन, बट कन्नड़ रामायण में
बट आई एम श्योर ये जैन रामायण आप स्टडी करेंगे तो मिलेगा. दैट्स श्योर,
डेफिनेटली. सो यू सी द डाइवर्सिटी. इनफैक्ट दशरथ जाटका में राम लक्ष्मण सीता भाई बहन है, एंड कौशल्या के 3 बच्चे होते हैं. सो दैट मेक्स यू वंडर कि कितना डाइवर्स है रामायण ट्रेडिशन, और जेंडर कंस्ट्रक्ट भी रामायण ट्रेडिशन में डाइवर्स है. इनफैक्ट अद्भुत रामायण में राम मार के आता है रावण को, बट सिर्फ 10 फेस्ड रावण को वो मार के आता है. सीता 1000 फेस्ड रावण को मार के आती है. तो अद्भुत रामायण में सीता इज द वन who vanquishes 1000-faced Ravana. She is more powerful than Ram. Right? So the diversity perplexes you sometimes. So you're definitely right. There's a lot of variety. And within that variety, we have to see which period Ramayana we are talking about, because gender roles changes according to the social construct. Women position changes according to the social construct. So it's a beautiful tradition to work on.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Kritika. Moving on to our next presentation. I now request Gaurav Jain to present his paper on women and mathematics in the Indian stance.
Thank you, Manali, and respected guest. My topic for today is going to be women and mathematics in the Indian stance. It's a very different kind of topic because most of us relate women with different kind of art, architecture, or things like that. But mathematics is also one subject which is very pertinent in the Indian space. And we have a lot of, as my previous speaker also mentioned during one of the conversation, that zero was invented in India, and the Vakshali manuscript is a proof of that. So there has been a long tradition of mathematics and the practice of mathematics in various spaces in the Indian space. And women has always contributed in that space. So that's what I would like to bring to everyone's attention through my paper. I'm a student of computer science, and I'm working on a PhD for a cryptographic Granth, which is called as Siri Bhuvalaya. It is probably the only scripture in the world which is entirely written in numerals, and that's why we have to decode it into the language which we want to decode it into. And that's why my field of research has been the mathematics, and this research has led me to connect this mathematics with various women in the Indian space, at least. So as per the Indian tradition, or the Jaina tradition specifically, the first Tirthankar, Rishabh Deva, was the one who actually gave the knowledge of Akshar Lipi and Ank Lipi. Akshar Lipi means characters and Ank Lipi meaning numerals. And it was thousands of years ago, because we can find references to Rishabh Deva in a lot of Vedas, a lot of Smritis and all. He has been at the forefront of the civilization. So he had two daughters. The first daughter was Brahmi, and Rishabh Deva taught her by creating the alphabets and characters, and that's what became Brahmi Lipi over a period of time. And even today, this is one of the oldest references and the oldest scripts in the Indian site. The second daughter was Sundari. So Rishabh Deva taught numerals starting from 0 to 9, and taught that how to make them, how they connect, what are the place values, what are the face values, all of it, all this information was given to Sundari by Rishabh Deva. And this is, and he also explained that the entire numeral space, the entire calculations of the world, be it to the molecule level or to the universe level, all can be calculated and done using the same system. So using both of them, both of these scripts, the Akshar Lipi and the Ank Lipi, the brother of Brahmi and Sundari, which is Gomatesh, so Gomatesh Bahubali, who has a very famous statue in the Karnataka, which is known as Shravan Belgola. So he was the one who connected both of them, and he created a script, which is a cryptographic script. And this cryptographic script can further be devised into multiple languages. So what it means was that you can write your text into one language, which is the numeral language, as you can see on the right side of your screen. So these are only Kannada numerals, starting from 1 to 64, and you can decode it into 718 languages. So it is the same text. Suppose it is a shloka of, say, Gayatri Mantra, for example. So the same Gayatri Mantra you can decode in Kannada, the same Gayatri Mantra you can decode into Prakrit or Sanskrit or Tamil and things like that. So there are 718 languages which it can be decoded into. So this text has been passed on over generation in form of Shrut, meaning from one person to other person it was taught and understood, never written. But in about 88th century, Jain Acharya Kumudendu, he developed this entire system numeral script, taking cue from the same cue which Gomatesh has prepared in the thousands of years ago, and he prepared the Shas called as Siri Bhuvalaya. So Siri Bhuvalaya is available today, and I think for most of us it is a very curious subject, because all of us are transferring this video over a video call, or we see, right, or we see YouTube, or we have our banking transactions. All of that information is a cryptographic information, and that cryptography is claimed as if it is a new thing which is developed by the Western people. But we have a live proof that this was developed in India 1200 years ago. Any text which can be cryptized, and it can be converted into something else, encoded, and then transferred, and then later on it can be decoded at the receiver's level. So this is a pure play mathematics work which was done at a very detailed level. It has 1200 pages, and it can be decoded into roughly 600,000 shlokas. No, it is not completed yet. Only few chapters have been decoded, but it's a great work. So when we say that women have a role in this society, it is not at the level of the not only at the level of the managing the household, understanding people, having emotions or things like that. It is also at the level of the economics and mathematics, and also to the which can entirely change the society in form of knowledge. So in Jain text, again, there are other references also. Tiloy Pandit is one of the great astronomy related shastra which has been prepared under the Jain text. It mentions Sulsa, who adapted that calculation and was helping in the business affairs. There is another Vishesh Avashyak text which names Tulabhadra, who was skilled in arithmetic and geometry. And there is a temple in Karnataka called Chadurmukha Basdi. It has a very specific carving on the wall of the temple, which has a woman holding a geometric instrument and actually calculating and doing the calculation so that it can be used for purpose of temple constructions. So this is from the Jain text. But because the topic is about the Indian as a whole, so there are in the Vedic text, specifically in Rig Veda, there are a lot of women which have been termed as skilled in mathematics and astronomy. The very famous conversation or the debate between Gargi with the Yagavalla it is one of the most prominent and pertinent subject, that her knowledge in mathematics and the universe, and the way she describes the universe and the way she defines the universe in only 7 to 8 stanzas, even today it is one of the most important referential point for the calculation of astronomy purposes. So this shows the depth of knowledge they had, especially the women had even at that time in terms of mathematics. So there may be some less opportunities, or they may not have been recognized as a whole, but there were a lot of these instances which you find in various scriptures and Vedas and Jain agams and even in Buddhist stories. So there are other references for Vedic texts also, like Maitri was a renowned scholar and mathematician. Aryabhatta, in his Aryabhatiya, he has very specifically mentioned there are a lot of women who were his students, and they were also doing a lot of calculations in terms of pure mathematics, also in the fields of the astronomy. In Buddhist Jatak stories also, there are a lot of mention of some women who have been at the forefront of education, or they were teaching others, and they were also informed on the various subjects. So Bimba Devi was one such reference which I could found at least in the Buddhist Jataka stories. So women's contribution to mathematics has been a lot, but it has not been acknowledged or promoted to that extent. But I think with a lot of work, especially like this conference is one such work where we can find out various sides of women, including one of the education side, and in education the mathematics side, because the better knowledge of mathematics, as I understand and I can see it, that it advances the scientific research. Yeah, this is my last time, just a minute.
Yes.
Yeah. So they help in advancing the scientific research. They can improve the data analysis. They can develop innovative solutions. They can manage the financial system very effectively and make informed decisions. So I think the women's contribution to mathematics has been a lot, and we have to acknowledge it and to respect it. So that is from my side.
Thank you very much, Gaurav. If anybody has any questions, I think we can take a couple of questions. No? Okay. So I think we can move on to the last presentation of this session, and that will be by the chairperson of this session, Dr. Vinay Kumar sir. Sir, I request you to kindly address the virtual gathering. Please also give the presidential remarks for the session and present your thoughts along with
Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Okay. So before I put forward my views regarding the role of the woman in Buddhist art, basically in the sculptural art of Central India, the area where I worked for a while I was the assistant professor at Amarkantak University. So I will put forward my ideas and my views regarding the role of the woman there in the sculptural art. But prior to that, I would like to congratulate as well as acknowledge and rather appreciate the efforts made by Gaurav ji as well as Kritika Punya ji and Dheeraj Kumar ji. Dheeraj ji as well as Kritika ji, they emphasized on from the literary perspective about the role of the women or the various women, and more particularly the paper of Kritika Punya ji. She has just put a new insight about the various depiction of the women in the Ramayana, which we have so many. Kaushal ji has rightly pointed out so many versions of Ramayana are available, and Gaurav ji has just put and he has just proved that basically our culture is really the interdisciplinary in nature. And being a person of computer science, and how beautifully he has presented his views about the role of the woman and cited with some examples. So I congratulate and I appreciate the efforts made by all of you. I would like to tell that in the early Buddhist art of the central of India, at the sites of Sachi, Bharut, Sonari, Sardhara, Bhur are the connection between the south and the north that we know. And the paper, which I will be talking with the help of the visuals as well as the narrations as well as the plates, it intends to explore the various aspects of the woman in performing their social responsibilities and expressing their feminine desires through the sculptural representations in early Buddhist art of Central India. So please let me share my screen. Whether my screen is shared or not?
No, sir. It just went away. We can see your screen, sir. You have to put it on slideshow.
Okay. Can you see it?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay.
So make it full screen, Vinay.
Okay, sir.
Yes, sir.
Is it visible?
Perfect. Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
fine.
Perfect.
So, so before I move forward, I would like to tell about the role of Buddhism and its the representation or the contribution or the participation of the women in Buddhism. And for that, already Dhiraj has put some views regarding the mention of some of the important Bhikkhuni Sangh into the Buddhist tradition and the culture. And when we talk about the Buddhism and women, so Gross in her book Buddhism After Patriarchy sees of the view that it makes a crucially important as well as extensive study of all the main sects of the Buddhism from a cross-cultural, religious as well as the feministic point of view, stating her principal objective as a feminist revolutionization of the Buddhism. So analyzing the key Buddhist concept as well as the attitude that shapes its worldview. She as well as the other scholars besides Gross, they are divided about whether there is a case of feminism in Buddhism or not. So especially in the Theravada or the early Buddhism has seen largely a shift by the patriarchal attitude as opposed to the later development in the Mahayana as well as the Vajrayana tradition, more favorable towards the woman that we know from our text or Buddhist text. So the Pali Canon, it mentions that it was the Venerable Anand, which has been mentioned by Dhiraji also, that it was the Venerable Anand who finally convinced the Buddha through the presenting a logical case on behalf of the woman, as the Buddha himself admitted that they were fully capable of attaining the highest goal for the nirvana. That we know. And how with the help of the 500 nuns or the bhikkhunis, they were permitted to take part into the Sangh, and they were allowed later on, although the Buddha was very much earlier, he was very much reluctant for the inclusion of the women in the Buddhist tradition, as he has also said that he has declared that its original prediction of the teaching, which lasted for about 1000 years, would be half if women were allowed to ordination into the Buddhist faith or Buddhist tradition. That I'm not going to tell about that one. So after the inclusion of the woman or after the joining of the Sangh in the woman, they have found divinity as well as respect like the Sumangal, Matika, Vashanti, Sumedh, Utpala Varana, And all these were the important women which were the main, they have played the main role in the Buddhist Sangh. And several sex workers who were looked upon by the society, they also joined the Sangh and acquired a respectable place. And some of the examples are the Arthakashi of the Kasi, Padmavati of the Ujjain, as well as the Ambapali or the Amrapali of the Vaishali. So these were the Ganikas, or the sex workers who came from this background, and they enjoyed a high reputation into the Sangh tradition or into the Sangh. So when we talk about the women in the sculptural art of Central India, so the woman, we know that it is an important and integral part of society. A society could never persist and flourish without giving suitable respect and liberty to a woman. And in our respect, the society existed during the 3rd century BC to the 3rd century CE was also not an exception. And in wake up of the illustrating the contemporary life in the background of the Buddhist narratives, the active involvement of the women is very vibrantly reflected in the sculptural art of the Central India. So here, in beginning the sculptor, they adhered with the set religious norms of not depicting the Buddha in the image form, and they concentrated on depicting the incident from the life of the Manushi Buddha as well as the Jatak, which restricted the individual presence of the Buddha in the sculptural art symbolically. Individuals or some natural elements are responsible to create any living being in the nature. Similarly, the Gautam Buddha. The Buddhist legend suggests that Buddha as an infant entered the womb of the Mahamaya, the queen of the king Suddhodhan, in the form of a white elephant. That is story we know. This is a map showing the different places from where we have got the evidence of the sculptural art of Buddha. So here, the Buddhist legend suggests that Buddha, in the form of a white elephant, he entered to the womb of Mahamaya, and that incident was an outcome of a collective request that was pleaded by the Devatas in the Tushit heaven. And it is affirmed by the many Buddhist sources that after convincing the child, the queen requested her husband to permit her to go to the parental house, and in the midst of the way to Devdaha at Lumbini, the Lord Buddha was born. That we know. And here, these are some of the examples of the stupa from where we have got these kind of examples in the sculptural art. So the early Buddhist sculptural art in Central India, they depict a woman performing the various religious rituals, complying family responsibility, as well as proving her devotion towards her husband. But it doesn't imply that her individual desires and wish to live a mundane life was overshadowed in early Buddhist sculptural art of Central India. Moreover, the early Buddhist art in the Central India, it flourished during the Shunga Satavahan period. It reflects a multi-dimensional facet of a woman's personality. So individuals or some natural elements, they are responsible to create any living being in the nature. Similarly was the case with the Buddhist art as well as the Gautam Buddha. So the Buddhist legend, they suggest that Buddha as infant entered into the womb of the Mahamaya, the queen of the king, Suddhodhan, in the form of a white elephant. The incident was an outcome of a collective request made by the Devatas in the Tushit heaven. It is affirmed by the many Buddhist sources that 10 months after conceiving the child, the queen requested her husband to permit her to go to the parental house, and in the midst of the way to the Devdaha at Lumini, she developed a desire to play with the shal tree, where she delivered a Siddhartha who became famous as Gautam Buddha in the future. So this is that particular narration or the scene where we can see here the dream of the Maya. It is from the Bharut, which is right now housed at Indian Museum, Kolkata. Similarly, this is the panel from the Sanchi, from the north pillar. Here the Maya dream as well as the visit to the Kapil Vastu depicted on the eastern gate. We can see it in this art. Similarly, in the other panel also, she has been the early Buddhist sculptural art. Here we can see the element of the Sri, and the ancient literature considers Sri as a symbol of eternal beauty and a virtue as a source of prosperity. So now you see it here how the woman has been conceived as has been considered as a source of prosperity. And in the Buddhist sculptural art, the sculptor, he attempted to conceptualize this concept of the Sri or the Lakshmi together as a goddess of all of the creations. So in this regard, considering the popularity of the motive, the sculptor has presented Lakshmi in the various form. She is presented at the entrance as Toran Lakshmi or Dwar Lakshmi, sitting on a throne as Padma Lakshmi, and symbolizing the various directions and carrying a chamar, chhatra, as well as the Gaja Lakshmi being adorned by the elephants. So the back side of the second architrave of the northern gateway calves, here the Maya sitting in the peculiar position. Here two elephants are shown pouring water over her head. You can see this particular panel here. Indicating about the giving holy bath to the invincible child, symbolically presented by the chhatra. So the scene here shows that the elephant, they are performing the rituals and praying for the upcoming child. The elephants, they are carved standing on the lotus, and they had carried here the colors in the trunk. You can see it here very beautifully. And Queen Maya is seated on a lotus in the Ardha Lilasan position, and her right leg is hanging down. You can see left leg is hanging down. You can see it here. She has placed her left leg over the another lotus emerged out from the water, and the coming out of the several aquatic vegetation and extended belly affirms her being carrying a child in her womb. So you can see it here very beautifully. Similarly, you can see here the motif of the Salbhanjika. It is also taken as the symbol of the Vrikshika in the early Buddhist art, where a woman is carved playing with the branches of a tree other than the shal, which was also narrated by this Parimu ma'am regarding that Ashok Doha. And the eastern gateway of the Sanchi, it is carving a beautiful Vrikshika grabbing this bog of the mango tree. In such an attempt, her breasts are emerged out like an elaborated Swarna Ghata. Her locks spread out over her back, and they are brought up on the crown of her head into a curious top note. And the bodily features of this Vrikshika are clearly visible under the transparent clothes worn by her. Though the sculpture is less ornamented and simple in nature, still it could be placed in the category of some of the magnificent sculptures of the Sachi, which is depicting the woman. And another woman here, you can see here the woman watching the animal fight from the Bharat Indian, from the housed in the Indian Museum, Kolkata. Here you can see here. So she is performing another this activity of the society. Coming to the other example, you can see here. Again, you can find here this auspicious representation of this particular Yakshini at the Sanchi Stupa number 2. Here you can see it here in this particular panel how this Yakshini has been beautifully, and this woman here has been given the symbol of a divine entity here in this particular panel, where you can see here, and she has been shown. And again in this another panel, you can see here in this panel of this Dharma Chakra or the sermon, which is from the southern gateway of the west pillar front face of the Sanchi here. Here you can easily see here the family visit of the religious palaces, and this was a common practice during the early Buddhist period like nowadays. It is affirmed in this illustration from this Torana. Here Lord Buddha is carved alighting by a staircase here from this particular Tushit heaven that we know after preaching her mother. And the crowd of the city is carved giving a ceremonial welcome to the Buddha after performing such miracle. So the two family, which is comprising of the husband, wife and a child, are carved on each side of the Buddha, represented through a peepal tree. You can see here, and you can see I am talking about this one. And here and this is the panel showing the visit of the Bimbisar. This is from the northern gateway, from the east pillar of the Sanchi. Here you can see how beautifully this has also been shown, and here how the women, they are adoring the Lord Buddha, and it is from the east, this eastern pillar of this Sanchi. Again in this pillar, you can see here in this pillar the eastern torah of the Sanchi. Here again in this pillar, a colorful life of the rural people in transitional centuries of the Christian era has been beautifully carved. Here you can see here a lady at the top, this particular lady at the top, which is corner attending a guest outside the house who has entered into the house, and they are showing different kind of the household activity into the sculptural art. There are other panels also. You can see here. This is from the Muhammad Jata, where also this beautiful this lady or the woman has been shown. It is from the Bharat panel. Again, it has been just a lady with the divine power as well as the child bearer or the child protector, as the Ashwamukhi Yaksha has also been found by of this lady from the Sachi Stupa number 2. Again, you can find similar kind of this depiction of the woman life very beautifully, vividly onto the northern Torana of the Sachi. You can see here they are performing the various activities. In this also, this is a scene from the Urobila village, from where the various household activities, rearing the cattle, doing the household activities, he is pondering these grains, doing the housework, has been very beautifully. Again, not only this social life has been depicted by these women in the sculptural art. You can see here this is the pleasure trip by the royal person of this. You can see from the Sachi here, and she has been engaged in this this pleasure activity also. You can see this riding couple at the elephant and visiting this forest. Again, this is from the western gateway of the Sachi. You can see very beautifully the depiction of the woman with his husband here. With her husband here, you can see here, and we also get the scenes of the Jangha Alingana enjoyments. So you see here, we can see here the involvement of the lady in the social life, religious life, as well as the court life, and not only that one here, the sexual life that has been very clearly depicted or just narrated or has been shown by the sculptors in the sculptural art of the South India. So coming to the conclusion, we know that this period between 1st century to the 2nd century, it witnessed the advent of the new political powers of the Sakas as well as the Bactrians as well as the Satavahanas. So these newly emerged powers, they provided more liberty and space in the field of art and literature in contrast to the prior dynastic rules which overshadowed the skill experimentation as well as the individual choice of the artist. The newly emerged wealthy class of the traders as well as the benefited common people due to the sudden growth in the trade and commerce activities. It encouraged the construction of the Buddhist establishment, and the merchants, they are not treated with the inferiority by the Sangh, and they need some places in halt and worship in midst of their frequent travel to the interior regions of the country. So this encouraged them to give open-hearted donations to the viharas, which changed them into the rich organization. So this certainly encouraged the sculptors to carve narratives according to his own choice and taste. So he selected some of the specific narratives from present as well as the previous life of the Lord Buddha, along with the representation of this woman. So the contemporary society is very explicitly this narrative or has been shown or depicted in the sculptural art, which proves very helpful to reconstruct the contemporary society of Central India on the basis of the materialistic evidence present in the sculptural art. So as we all know, women are there, which I have already told you that they were the integral part of the society. Overlooking her active involvement, liberty as well as the respect cannot survive for a long. So the early Buddhist sculptural art in Central India depict a woman performing the various religious rituals, complying family responsibilities, and proving her devotion towards her husband and family. But it doesn't imply that her individual desires and wish to live a mundane life was overshadowed in early Buddhist sculptural art of Central India. Moreover, the early Buddhist art in Central India flourished during Sung and Shatavahan period, reflects a multi-dimensional facet of a woman's personality as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for the detailed and interesting talk about the women as depicted in early Buddhist sculptures. As we are running short of time, I will just take one question which was posted in the chat box by Sri Nandan Shastri sir. Since Chhattisgarh is also in central India, have you any example from it in context of your today's subject of talk? That is a question for you, sir.
I haven't taken any
Manali,
examples
your
from the
screen has been
Chhattisgarh.
frozen.
No problem. Let her speak.
So I have not taken any example from the Chhattisgarh, sir, because although we have some of the important sites like Sirpur in Chhattisgarh, but I have only taken the examples from the Sachi and Sardhara as well.
As we have to prepare for the next session, that is by Professor Uma Chakravarti, and she will be joining us 5 minutes before the talk. Therefore, I think we will end this session here today. It was really a very fruitful session. Um, Sir has given a wonderful presentation from which we have learned a lot of things. The three scholarly papers that were presented in this session were also very, very enlightening and interesting. So, on behalf of myself, Nidhi, and my entire team, I thank Dr. Vinay Kumar sir for being here with us today and in the position of chairperson of this session. Thank you very much, sir, for chairing this session. Thank you. I also want to thank the three presenters who presented their papers in this session, and our honorary president, Nandan Shastri sir, who actively participated in this session. All other scholars, students, and professors who have joined us in this session, thank you all very much. Let's take a 5 minutes break and join back at 7:30 for the next lecture. Thank you all. Thank you, sir.
Recording stopped.